I confess, bowing here, I find my rest, and without you, I fall apart. You're the one that guides my heart. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Where sin runs deep, your grace is more. Where grace is found is where you are. And where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Where you are, Lord, I am free. Holiness is Christ in me. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. So teach my song to rise to you. When temptations come my way, and when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. And when I cannot stand, I'll fall on you. Jesus, you're my hope and stay. Hey, Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. Lord, I need you. Oh, I need you. Every hour I need you. My one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you. You're my one defense, my righteousness. Oh God, how I need you.
We've waited for this day. We're gathered in your name, calling out to you. Your glory like a fire, awakening desire, will burn our hearts with truth. You're the reason we're here. You're the reason we're singing. Open up the heavens, we want to see you. Open up the floodgates, a mighty river flowing from your heart, filling presence in this place, your glory on our face. We're looking to the sky, descending like a cloud. You're standing with us now. Lord, unveil our eyes. You're the reason we're here. You're the reason we're singing. So open up the heavens. We want to see you. Open up the floodgates. A mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our praise. So open up the heavens. We want to see you. Open up the floodgates. A mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our praise. Show us your glory. Show us your power. Show us your glory, Lord. Show us your glory. Show us your power. Show us your glory, Lord. Open up the heavens. We want to see you. Open up the floodgates. A mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our praise. Open up the heavens. We want to see you. Open up the floodgates. A mighty river flowing from your heart, filling every part of our praise.
You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. You give life, you are love, you bring light to the darkness, you give hope, you restore every heart that is broken. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. In our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. and all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord, and all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord, and all the earth will shout your praise. Our hearts will cry, these bones will sing. Great are you, Lord. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise. We pour out our praise. It's your breath in our lungs, so we pour out our praise to you only. Great are you, Lord. Great are you, Lord.
Welcome, friends. My name is Joe Peretti. I'm a pastor in the Raleigh, North Carolina area, and I pastor 4 churches in this area. And it's a sermon series that I'm putting together for my churches. And the name for this series that I'm putting together is called Rethinking Church. Our previous sermon that we presented last week deals really with what it takes to rethink church. And we actually need to rethink how we look at each other. How is it that we look at ourselves, actually? What it takes to go deep inside. And in that sermon, we learned 4 areas that we need to be conscious about when we are trying to go deeper into our hearts and we're trying to rethink church and rethink ourselves. And the 4 areas that we need to be conscious of is conscious of our feelings and actions, conscious of our motives, conscious of the gospel's power in our lives, and conscious of our self-made monuments. In the previous sermon, we concluded that the biggest threat to our spirituality and to our journey and walk with Jesus is actually those self-made monuments, those idols, not necessarily the idols that are substituting Jesus Christ or God or sort of an idol that we worship, but rather those idols that we have created and those images that we have created to hide behind from other people and from God himself. When we try to build relationship for the sake of ministry and the gospel and to win other people, we always operate behind these images, this mask that we put together. And in order for us to rethink church, we need to readdress that issue. Why is it that we created that mask? Why is it that we created that image, that monument that we are selling to everyone outside? Many times we talk about this and we joke around about it in Christian circles and even outside of Christian church circles. We always mention how hypocritical the church is. And one of the reasons why is because we notice that on one end, people live a specific lifestyle outside of church, but then when they come into church, it's a whole different person. And we learned last sermon that the reason why we do that is not so much because we want to portray a character, but rather we're doing it out of self-defense because of a hurt or because a pain that happened in our past. And it's simply our way of defending ourselves and protecting ourselves from that hurt again. Today we want to dive deep, and the sermon title for this one is Freed from My Past. And our text for the last sermon actually comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 13, verse 5, and it reads like this. Examine yourselves to see whether you are in the faith. Test yourself. Do you not realize that Christ Jesus is in you, unless, of course, you fail the test? Paul is here addressing his church, and this is a church that is in turmoil. It's a church that is fighting within each other. It is a church that really represents what churches look like today. It's a church that we play church. We put up the mask. We separate and distance ourselves through these monuments that we have created to protect ourselves, and we really don't care what happens to the other person. And that's precisely what we see today. And Paul is trying to make a point. He's trying to get to the heart of the issue. Look, I'm going to come back a third time. And I'm going to come back. But before I come back to check up on all of you, I need you to examine yourself. I need you to go and dig deep inside, go deep down into your heart and find out why is it that you're acting the way that you are. It's not good enough that you say, I'm a Christian, but yet don't care about the needs and pains that you're causing to other people. And this brings to mind a deeper issue. Because if the reason why we are playing church and we put up the mask, if the reason why we do all of that is to protect ourselves from hurt, then we have to ask the question, why is it that when Jesus forgives my sins, why is it that if the blood of Jesus Christ is powerful enough to save me, why am I still hurting? Why am I still in pain? Why do I still feel this pain even to this day after my conversion? In the same book, in 2 Corinthians chapter 5, Paul talks and addresses a beautiful concept that I remind myself every single morning of. Every single morning I wake up, and especially days that I wake up and I've already failed the previous day and I'm wanting to start on the right foot. I remind myself of this text. Therefore, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has gone, the new has come. And every single morning I always remind myself of this idea, of this concept, that when I am in Jesus Christ, I am a new creation. I am new. But then I'm faced with the dilemma, with the problem. And it's simply, why am I still hurting? And when I look into the Bible, I've been looking for examples, and I found two specific examples of why it is that I am still hurting, and why possibly you're still hurting too, even after your conversion story, even after that point where you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Why is it that the pain is still there? Why is my heart still hurting? Why is it yearning for healing and for someone to say, I'm sorry? And I found two examples. And I was surprised when I found these two examples. Because really the reason why the pain is still there, why is it that we're still in yearning for that, I'm sorry, Joe, is because a lot of that pain really comes down to our past, to our childhood, to our family history, our interactions and relationships with family. The two examples that I found are actually two famous families. Two famous families that are within the Bible that we always talk about, we always sing songs about, and we learn this as children. The first family that I want to look at is the family of King David. Now, King David was unique because King David was not a family that comes from royal lineage. As a matter of fact, the first time we find David, we find him out in the field shepherding sheep. And Solomon We find him out shepherding sheep. But then the prophet Samuel comes, and he's looking for the new king, to anoint the new king. He comes to his dad, Jesse, and he says, hey, I need you to round up all you boys, because the Lord is telling me that this is where the new king is going to be found. So let me see them. And Jesse rounds up his boys. And Samuel goes through every single one. None of them are the one. And Samuel asks a question that many times I've overlooked, and I read past this. He asked, do you have another son? And Jesse's response is, oh, yes, we have a little one outside, just with the sheep. Now, for you might be saying, well, this is kind of, okay, it was a young kid, so why bring him over? But I wonder if this was the first time that David was overlooked by his father. Was there any other point in his childhood and in his developmental years where his father overlooked him just because he was the youngest? We definitely know that his brothers had a tendency of overlooking David. And here you have what seems a very simple and innocent forgetfulness can really lead to a traumatic development. All of a sudden, now you find David as a king, and he overlooks the fact that he should be out in the field with his army, winning battles. And he so happens that he overlooks that one of his trusted men, his best friend, one of the men of valor of David, his wife is out in the sanctuary purifying herself. She is performing a religious cleansing as stipulated by the law. And King David overlooks his friendship, overlooks his kingship, and he physically overlooks on a person that's vulnerable and performing a spiritual and religious ritual so that she can be close to God. Then we have another instance in King David's life where he overlooks now not someone else so that he can sin, but he now overlooks his son's sin because of shame that his son will call him out. I'm speaking of Solomon. But that doesn't end there. Now, Solomon, the next king after David, follows this pattern of overlooking, and he received the law and he knows what the law says and what should be done, yet he overlooks what Moses recommends a king should never do in Deuteronomy 17. And he finds himself countless wives and concubines. And that leads him to compromise his religion. And that leads us to a fourth generation. And the fourth generation is even worse because Rehoboam, the son of Solomon, now overlooks God entirely and completely drives the whole nation into idolatry and essentially splits the kingdom in half. Now you have Jerusalem on one side and Samaria on the other. All of this because of a simple and innocent overlooking. And I have to ask, were you overlooked in any point in your life? Was there any moment in your life where overlooking was the thing? Your dad overlooked you or your mom overlooked, and now you have this sense of abandonment or whatever it may be, and you have this hurt and you're still trying to figure out how can you satisfy that pain. Sure, you have accepted Jesus Christ, you have said yes to him, but yet the pain is still there. Let's go to our second example, because in the second example, I find the best solution for that problem. And it's actually in the family of Abraham. Abraham, he is the father of the Jewish people and Muslim people. Abraham was called out of the area of Iraq. And from there, he was called out of polytheism, and he comes over to the promised land that he has never seen. But Abraham has one problem. Abraham actually has a little issue with lies. And he lies in two occasions, and it's relating to his wife, whether she was his wife or not. And while this lie was, in essence, to protect his family and to protect himself and his spouse and everyone, he overlooked what should have been done right. And on one occasion, he lies to the Pharaoh of Egypt, and the Pharaoh, who is a pagan king, rebukes Abraham, says, "Wait a minute, you almost caused me to sin." And that little innocent white lie now gets moved over to the next generation, and you have Isaac and Rebekah and how they battle with each other and their play on favoritism and their deception of each other, and how Rebekah now tries to manipulate Isaac and essentially lies to him. She now tells Jacob, "Do this and do it like this, and I'm gonna prepare this meal for your father, and then you will receive the blessing and the birthright." And Jacob, let's not forget about Jacob. The very name means usurper, someone who deceives someone, a liar, a thief. Jacob was the very embodiment of Abraham's sin. And what's worse is that then Jacob, his sons, lied to him for decades of where his favorite son was. But we come to Jacob's story, and it's in Jacob's story that we find how we can address this hurt. That in Genesis 32, we have the story of Jacob fighting with the angel. He's fighting with a man. And as he is fighting, he is struggling because he's about to meet his brother for the very first time. He stole his brother's birthright and the blessing. He stole it all from him. And now Jacob is in the position where he needs to confront his past. Now he really needs to come face to face with the source of his pain. Now he needs to address the hurt that is underlying. And we find in verse 24, it says, "So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Then the man said, 'Let me go, for it is daybreak.' But Jacob replied, 'I will not let you go unless you bless me.'" It's powerful that this man is none other than Jesus Christ wrestling with Jesus. And the Bible tells us that when Jesus saw that he could not overcome Jacob, let me read it one more time. When the man, Jesus, the angel of the Lord saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip. My friends, in this passage, we find out what is it that led Jacob to be in a right place. You see, Jacob understood that there was nothing that he can do to satisfy the hurt. There was nothing that he can do to fulfill that yearning desire that his heart had. He was in pain, and all he needed was one confrontation. And as we're trying to break free from our past, as we're trying to rethink what church is, we need to come to grips and we need to understand that our past has led us to play church a specific way. But really what we need to do is come to the man and wrestle with the man. To the point where we say, I will not let you go until you bless me. See, when we wrestle with Jesus in the night, when we wrestle with Jesus about our past, to have him break free those binding chains that are around us. When we do that, Jesus will ask one thing. What's your name? What's your name? Who are you? And that is where the biggest decision of your life will come. Jacob could have said, I am Abraham's son. I'm Isaac's son. I own all of this. I amassed a large wealth, have numerous children. But Jacob said one thing. My name is Jacob. My name is deceiver. My name is usurper. My name is sinner. I'm a sinner. I'm broken and I'm hurting. And I need someone to set me free. And Jesus responds to Jacob. It's marvelous. Jesus responds to him. Your name will no longer be Jacob, the deceiver, the usurper, the slanderer, the sinner, the thief, the liar, but Israel. Because you have struggled with God and with man, and you have overcome. You see, you and I have hurts and you and I have pains. We all have struggles, we all have pasts, and all of this has led us to create these masks, these monuments to protect us, to hide behind so that no one can hurt us the way that we were hurt in the past. But like Jacob, you and I need to learn that the only way that we can ever be truly free, the only way that we can ever effectively become a church, is if we break free from the hurt of our past. And Jacob did that by wrestling with Jesus. This is a beautiful weekend that we're celebrating in Christianity. The Passover was mere days ago, and Resurrection Sunday was tomorrow. And when I think of Resurrection Sunday, I think of a new beginning. I think of a new start. I think of hope. I think of freedom finally reigning. But we can't forget that when Jesus died and came back to life, he came back to life to show you and I that we can really be free from our past. That you and I can find peace and solace in him. That you might be saying, how is this even possible? You have no idea how bad it's been. You have no idea the amount of pain and abuse I have ever experienced in my life. Yeah, I might not know what it is. I might not know what the pain is and why it happened. And I definitely do not want to say that I can empathize or sympathize with you. But one thing I do know is that Jesus has the ability to help us break free from those chains of pain and suffering so that you can be free, so that you can live your life the way that you should have been living your life. Jesus' sacrifice on the cross was not necessarily to bring full restitution to all the pain and suffering that you have experienced. But it did provide what you needed to be free right here, right now, so that you can live your life to the fullest. There will be a day, there is a day that is coming where all of those hurts and all of those pains and all those people that have done horrible things to you will have to come face to face with Jesus and will actually have to face the judgment. But today, it's not about them. Today is about you. Today is so that you can be free from your past and that you can now worship God and serve fellow men and women with authenticity, with realness, with genuineness, because you no longer have to hide behind a mask, behind a monument because of your hurt. You can do it freely because Jesus has healed you. That's the greatest miracle that can ever happen in the world. Sure, being cured from cancer and some miraculous healing could take place, but really the biggest miracle that can ever occur in your life is the transformation that Jesus can do in your heart. Jesus cares about your emotional health as much as he cares about your spiritual health. All he is simply asking is that you come and let him heal you. You and I need to come to the realization and to the acceptance of one thing and one thing alone. Am I hurting? Is there hurt deep down inside? Do I need someone to heal me? And if that question is answered positively, then Jesus is the person. Jesus says in Ezekiel 36:26, I will give you a new heart and a new spirit. I will give you a new heart. Change the hardened, rock hard heart that's in you because of all the pain, because of all the hurt, because of all the sin. And I will change it to one of flesh, one that feels, one that is human. And in verse 36, he concludes with, I have declared this, and I will do it. But I have one question for you. Friend, are you hurting today? If you are, Jesus is your answer.
Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. The sun comes up, it's a new day dawning. It's time to sing your song again. Whatever may pass and whatever lies before me, let me be singing when the evening comes. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. You're rich in love and you're slow to anger. Your name is great and your heart is kind. For all your goodness I will keep on singing. 10,000 reasons for my heart to find. Bless the Lord, oh my soul, oh my soul. Worship his holy name. Sing like never before, oh my soul. I'll worship your holy name. And on that day when my strength is failing, the end draws near and my time has come. Still my soul will sing your praise